Dorsey. Do you need a chair or a stand?
I'll just stand up.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Conway Dorsey, and I'm going to read a passage out of a novel I wrote, and it's sort of consistent with the first song these folks just did. It's called, the novel is called The Lower Reaches of the River, and it opens with a quote by Vladimir Nabokov, a sense of oneness with sun and stone. And I'm going to read the last couple pages of the first chapter. I got a ride to my abandoned car and I filled up with gas. It was late afternoon as Wilson and I drove through the deep shadows of the tall pines and the water oaks cloaked in dense green foliage of muscadine vines and Spanish moss along the sides of the gravel road. I wondered how this compared to the countryside of Wilson's home, how strange it must seem to him. Did the trees look different? Were there migratory geese and ducks like here? As we rounded a curve, Adley Raynaud came into view. He was riding his bike on the other side of the road in the opposite direction toward town. I slowed the car when we neared Adley, who stared straight ahead, steadily pedaling his bike. That's strange, I remarked to Wilson. What's Adley doing out here? Wilson peered out the window at him. When we passed Adley, he gave us a sharp military salute with his left hand and continued pedaling down the road. He was muttering, "Clickety-clack, don't look back, clickety-clack, don't look back," over and over as he pedaled away. I smiled at Wilson and shrugged my shoulders. As we rounded a bend in the road, we saw Rodney's pickup truck parked on the bank of the bayou along another truck I didn't recognize. The ramshackle houseboat was moored far upstream on a remote bend in English Bayou. It was little more than a screened-in porch on pontoons, draped with tarps and tattered old clothes left hanging out to dry. I parked the car, and Wilson and I got out. Suddenly, a figure in an oily red baseball cap materialized beside the canebrake along the water's edge. He was wielding a sawed-off shotgun. It was one of the electricians from the refinery. "What the hell?" I muttered. Two other figures stirred inside the houseboat in the shadows. Harlan, the electrician with the shotgun, called out, "Leon, our witness has just arrived." I began to back up toward my car, fumbling with the keys in my pocket. Harlan grabbed me by the arm and escorted me and Wilson to the back deck of the houseboat, where he sat us down on seats salvaged from an old school bus. Leon, the other electrician, then brought Rodney outside at gunpoint. Rodney stared expressionless at his feet, hands in his pockets. I was struck speechless. "Well, well, this is a nice quiet place to end this little game of chase. We've been looking all over for you," said Harlan. "We like hunting anyhow," Leon said. "We like hunting skinny little scabs and chinks like you two." I thought then that Wilson and I would never leave this place, and tears welled up in my eyes. Wilson, his head down, spoke softly to himself. I gazed numbly through my tears across the bayou and into the swamp. There was a wispy layer of haze across the surface of the pale green water, and the swamp beyond was filled with palmetto, cypress, and black gum trees. I saw the image of my mother in the depths of the water. She had a serene expression, and turning to me, she held her hand out as if beckoning for me to join her. An impassive chorus of cicadas ebbed and flowed as the light of day faded. The rhythm of the cicadas stirred to silence, then hushed, folding, unfolding, folding again, breathing across the still water surface. Suddenly a raspy voice echoed out from among the trees across the bayou. "You boys with those guns need to settle down. We got you in our sights." It was early Watts. I held my breath, my life in the balance. Harlan and Leon glared out into the hazy dusk, looking this way, then that. They couldn't see anyone. "Just lower those guns and ease on out of here before you get hurt," said Early. From another direction, Uncle Ferris yelled out, "Just lower those guns and ease on out of here before you get hurt." Harlan and Leon appeared rattled. Harlan, lowering his gun, nodded for Leon to do the same. They edged over to the bank of the bayou, got into their truck, and headed back to town. Early emerged from the swamp on the opposite shore, paddling the P road. He paddled a ways downstream where my Uncle Ferris appeared from behind a large cypress tree and joined Early in the boat. Neither had a gun. When they had crossed the bayou and neared the houseboat, Early said, "Hadley stopped me down the road and told me you two were in for some trouble out here. He wouldn't have it any other way, but that I come out here to check on you two. I didn't have time to stop for my gun. I'm afraid if I would have, if I'd have had to. I'm afraid if I would have used it, I would have used it if I'd had it. We're lucky they bit on that bluff, Elliot. Are you boys all right?" "I guess we are," I replied, shaking with fear. I still felt the vice-like grip of Harlan's hand on my arm. "You got yourself out in the deep water, son," said Early. "Let's get this boat back to the truck. It's getting late." I was weak and dazed, like I had suddenly been yanked back into the world of the living. There remained a stunned silence on the houseboat. It was almost dark. I put my hand on Wilson's shoulder to reassure him we were safe, and we walked back to the car. I drove back to town alone. Wilson rode with the others. Traces of fireflies gleamed in the darkness of the woods. Adley had told me the fireflies were scarecrows lighting cigars after they left their posts in the fields to haunt the woods at night. He said they built bonfires deep in the woods where they planned their next heist or killing. To summon their courage, the stick and straw figures stalked about with a cripple gait chanting, "Clickety-clack, don't look back, clickety-clack, don't look back." And they cursed one another and got into drunken brawls. He said they crept back to their posts at dawn and spooked the crows like motionless, ragged sentries slumped at the edges of the fields and gardens in the hot sun. I imagined Adley now pedaling deliberately along, fabricating an important mission he was to complete before dark, a backstory through which to make his way home. Soon I left the forested bayou bottom that opened onto the treeless marshlands. Harlan and Leon had passed this way earlier, quite likely in a blind rage after the incident at the houseboat. Adley couldn't have been very far ahead of them on his way back to town. The conical headlight beams filled with swirling storms of swarming insects. The lights picked up the glint of something shiny. I slowed to a stop. It was a crumpled frame of Adley's bike on the side of the road. There was no one around, and everything fell silent. Now, but for the headlights, the world was black, moonless, without dimension. A soft breeze stirred the tall grasses, a passing presence bearing with it a distant lament, a cryptic plaint that was barely audible. I wasn't sure if it was animal or human, inconsolable, untamed, nameless. It may have been a cry, or it may have been a song. I couldn't say.